Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a good day from Indonesia to everyone, especially for all participants of the webinar. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Praise be to Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Because of his mercy, we are able to meet on this sunny day in the webinar Exploration of the Islamic Finance and Banking Industry, Emerging Opportunities in the Modern Economy. This webinar is organized by Indonesia Commodity and Derivative Exchange to raise Sharia commodity literacy to regulators, academicians, practitioners, and of course the society at all. Salawat and salam, my praise to our beloved Prophet Muhammad SAW, who has guided us to choose the best choice of the way of life, namely Islam. We also glad to welcome the speakers and moderator today, Dr. Muhammad Mahbubi Ali, Profesor Datin Dr. Rusni Hasan, Dr. Aiman Aizuddin Rashid, Ibu Yosita Nurwidayanti, also our special guest from Indonesia Regulator. And welcome to all participants joining with us today. Once again, welcome all. Dear participants, I am Najim Nur Fauzia. As the Master of Ceremony, I will be responsible for hosting today's webinar. To begin the event in this afternoon, let's us together by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now let us listen together to the welcoming remarks that will be delivered by Mr. Nur Salam as President Director of ICDX. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Pertama-tama, marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala, Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa yang telah memberikan kesehatan dan kesempatan bagi kita untuk bertemu muka meskipun secara daring dalam webinar Eksplorasi Dunia Keuangan Syariah, Peluang Baru di Ekonomi Modern pada hari ini. Para peserta dan pembicara yang kami hormati, bicara tentang pasar keuangan syariah, Islamic Finance Development Report tahun 2022 menempatkan Indonesia pada peringkat ke-7 aset keuangan syariah global. Dan baru-baru ini, pada State of the Global Islamic Economy Report tahun 2023, ekonomi syariah Indonesia naik menjadi peringkat ketiga. Data OJK menyebutkan tahun 2023 sampai dengan Juli, total aset keuangan syariah nasional tercatat sebesar 163 miliar US dollar atau setara dengan 2.461 rupiah. Angka ini naik sekitar 13% dibandingkan periode yang sama pada tahun sebelumnya. Optimisme juga datang dari Bank Indonesia yang memproyeksikan pada tahun 2024 ekonomi syariah Indonesia akan tumbuh sebesar 4,7% hingga 5,5% year on year. Bapak Ibu peserta webinar yang berbahagia, angka-angka tersebut cukup menggambarkan potensi perkembangan ekonomi syariah di Indonesia ke depan. Hal ini juga didukung peta demografi Indonesia yang memiliki jumlah penduduk muslim terbesar di dunia yang mencapai 237,56 juta jiwa atau 86,7% dari total penduduk Indonesia. Namun, data OJK menunjukkan bahwa pangsa pasar perbankan syariah di Indonesia per Agustus 2023 di angka 7,26%. Jika dibandingkan dengan pangsa pasar perbankan syariah di negara lain, Indonesia masih tertinggal cukup jauh. Kondisi ini menjadi tantangan bagi semua pemangku kepentingan di sektor ekonomi dan keuangan syariah Indonesia untuk semakin meningkatkan literasi terkait keuangan syariah, khususnya produk syariah. Survei Nasional Literasi dan Inklusi Keuangan tahun 2022 menunjukkan indeks literasi dan inklusi keuangan syariah tercatat 9,14 untuk indeks literasi dan 12,12% untuk indeks inklusi keuangan syariah. Salah satu produk inovasi yang dapat meningkatkan pangsa pasar Indonesia adalah produk komoditi murabahah atau di Indonesia dikenal komoditi syariah. Menurut data Islamic Financial Service Board, pada tahun 2022, komoditi murabahah secara global berada di posisi kedua, yakni sebesar 32% setelah kontrak murabahah. Bapak, Ibu peserta webinar yang berbahagia. Melalui webinar kali ini, kami berharap dapat muncul ide-ide segar serta wawasan baru terkait ekonomi dan keuangan syariah, sehingga kita dapat memanfaatkan serta memaksimalkan potensi besar ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia. Beberapa narasumber akan memberikan materi pada webinar kali ini, yaitu Profesor Datin Dr. Rusni Hasan dari Dean of IAUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance Malaysia, dan Dr. Aiman Aizudin Rashid, Eksekutif Direktur Amani Advisor Dubai, serta Dr. Muhammad Muhbubi Ali, Islamic Finance Expert dari Brunei Darussalam Central Bank. Para pembicara ini tentunya memiliki pengalaman serta update terbaru terkait ekonomi dan keuangan syariah yang bisa kita jadikan acuan atau referensi bagaimana kita semua memanfaatkan potensi ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia. Bapak Ibu peserta webinar yang kami hormati, dalam ekosistem ekonomi dan keuangan syariah di Indonesia, kami Indonesia Commodity and Derivative Exchange atau ICDX telah mendapatkan izin sebagai penyelenggara pasar murabahah komoditi syariah dari otoritas, dalam hal ini adalah Badan Pengawas Perdagangan Berjangka Komoditi. Kedepan ICDX berkomitmen untuk terus mendukung pertumbuhan industri keuangan syariah dengan memfasilitasi akad komoditi syariah, dengan juga memperhatikan aspek syariah, operasional, dan kehati-hatian dari komoditi murabahah. Bapak, Ibu peserta webinar yang kami hormati, dalam kesempatan ini kami juga ingin menyampaikan bahwa ICDX telah bekerja sama dengan akademisi dari berbagai negara untuk menerbitkan mini book berjudul Komoditi Murabahah, an Alternative Way to Scale Up Islamic Banking and Finance Industry. Mini book ini disusun oleh ketiga narasumber yang juga hadir pada hari ini, yaitu Profesor Datim Dr. Rusni Hasan dari Malaysia, kemudian Dr. Aiman Aizudin Abdul Rosid dari Dubai, dan Dr. Muhammad Mahbubi Ali dari Brunei Darussalam. Harapan kami, mini book ini dapat menjadi referensi praktis bagi industri perbankan syariah di Indonesia. Sebagai menutup, kami sampaikan terima kasih atas partisipasi Bapak Ibu sekalian yang telah berkenan mengikuti webinar ini. Semoga apa yang kita lakukan pada hari ini menjadi catatan sejarah sebagai upaya kita bersama dalam mendorong pertumbuhan industri keuangan syariah Indonesia serta bersama memajukan perekonomian Indonesia. Sekali lagi kami sampaikan terima kasih, selamat mengikuti webinar, serta selamat menunaikan ibadah puasa Ramadan tahun ini. Semoga kita semua dapat menjalankan ibadah puasa dengan khusyuk dan bisa berjumpa lagi pada Ramadan-Ramadan berikutnya. Terima kasih. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Nur Salam, for the great speech. And now, before we continue to the next agenda, I kindly request all participants to ensure that your microphone are mute to prevent any interference during the presentation. In case you have any question, please feel free to write them in the chat box and we will address them during the question and answer session. Also, to receive the certificate and presentation slide, please fill in the link which will be sent by the committee in the chat box at the end of the event. If you are attending via YouTube, kindly log in using your YouTube account so you will get the certificate and also the materials. Next is the panelist session, which will be guided by Ibu Yosita Nurwirdayanti, the Deputy Director of Islamic Banking of KNEKS.
Baik, terima kasih Ms. Najim. Thank you for the introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to everyone. I hope everyone is well and under protection of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I am Yosita and I'll be moderating today's event, Islamic Finance and Banking Industry Exploration, Emerging Opportunities in Modern Economics, the role of Sharia commodity in the global market and their potential in Indonesia. Commodity murabahah is an innovation in Islamic finance that may help to compete with the conventional bank. The potential of commodity murabahah in different countries to support Islamic finance industry. In today's discussion, we will have four main objectives. First, we will explore to what extent commodity murabahah is practiced in the ASEAN, Middle East, and Europe. Second, we will examine the consequences of Sharia operation and prudential implication of commodity murabahah. Third, we will discuss the degree to which commodity murabahah may contribute to Islamic banking sector in Indonesia. And finally, we will discuss and explore application for increasing market share development. Okay, to kick off our discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Mahbubi Ali from Brunei Central Bank to share literature review on commodity murabahah and how commodity murabahah practice in Brunei. I will introduce about his biography. Dr. Mahbubi hails from Indonesia and holds a PhD in Islamic Banking and Finance from IIUM. He obtained his master degree in Islamic Finance from INSIF, Malaysia, and bachelor's degree in Sharia and Islamic Finance from Tazkiyah University. Dr. Mahbubi currently holds the position of Islamic Finance Expert at the Brunei Darussalam Central Bank and is registered Sharia Advisor with Securities Commission Malaysia. Dr. Mahbubi also holds international recognition as a member of the Curriculum Review Committee at the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, or IOV, in Bahrain. And he is also the Board of Director of Zico Sharia, Director of Sharia IAFA Consulting, members of Sharia Committee, FWD Takaful Sendian Berhad, and Sharia Advisor of Dar al-Murajaah al-Syariah Bahrain. Without further ado, Dr. Mahbubi, the time is yours.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Yosita. Let me share my slide. Can you see the slide? Boleh?
Yes, boleh.
Okay. Baik, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon. Selamat siang semuanya. Yang kami hormati Pak Nur Salam, President Director of ICDX, respected panelists, my guru here, Prof. Datin Rusni Hasan, Dr. Aiman, my very good friend, moderator, Ibu Yosita, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to thank the organizer, ICDX, for having me in this webinar, among other distinguished panelists and speakers. And it gives me a pleasure to share with you the literature review or the concept of commodity murabahah in Islamic law, and how this concept can further be applied in the context of Brunei Darussalam. And before I present my slide, allow me to start the presentation by putting a disclaimer that any views presented in this webinar is my personal view and does not necessarily represent the views of any institution that I currently serve. This discussion we will cover the introduction aspect of the topic, the concept of commodity murabahah, and the different Sharia scholars' view, both classical views and contemporary views regarding the Sharia ruling or the permissibility of commodity murabahah in Islamic finance, the application of commodity murabahah, and how it is further applied in the context of Brunei Darussalam, and what are the benefit and advantages of commodity murabahah in conclusion. I believe some or perhaps most of you are aware that currently commodity murabahah has emerged as one of the most widely used concepts in Islamic financial industry globally. The concept has attracted wide acceptance from the industry players, mainly because its built-in features and characteristics can deliver the similar economic outcome of conventional products like capital guarantee, fixed return, as well as prepayment flexibility. In the context of Brunei Darussalam, commodity murabahah has also been applied and structured for various Islamic banking products, such as personal financing, overdraft facility, education financing, property financing, including home financing, as well as for interbank money market activities for liquidity management. And this presentation will focus two aspects, namely the concept of commodity murabahah, and the second one is the application of commodity murabahah in Brunei Darussalam. When we talk about commodity murabahah, as the term commonly used by the Islamic finance industry, basically this term signify the same meaning of the term tawarruk, yeah, in books, in literatures, yeah. So, and when we talk about tawarruk, the tawarruk itself is basically a concept which is derived from the Arabic root word warik, which means coin silver. So the tawarruk is used as a concept, as one of the Sharia concept in Islamic financial transaction, which signify the meaning silver because the main objective of the contracting parties participating into the contract, into the tawarruk concept, the commodity murabahah is mainly to seek liquidity, yeah, rather than to acquire commodity or property. And the first person who introduced the concept of tawarruk, of course in the different name, in the treatise of Islamic law is attributed to Ali bin Abi Talib, when he said, I would not abandon Hajj, yeah, even if I had to do it through Zarnaqah. So the concept of Zarnaqah was used by Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib to signify the meaning of tawarruk. Lan ad al-hajja walau tazarnaktu. And the first person that introduced the term tawarruk in the Islamic literature is mainly attributed to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, yeah, from the Hanbali school, yeah, in which the meaning basically signify the concept of zarnaqah as well as the concept of aina. And as Zamakhshari defined zarnaqah, yeah, as a purchase of an asset on deferred basis with a higher price, in which subsequently sell of it back to the original seller or to a third party for a lower price on cash basis. So in a nutshell, basically, Zarnaqah cover two concepts, namely aina and tawarruk. Because Zarnaqah can be used to purchase an asset in which subsequently will be sold to another party, so that it has the meaning of tawarruk, or it can also assume the meaning of sale and buyback, yeah, in which the same asset goes back to the original seller. Then it assume the concept of aina. So Zarnaqah is the umbrella of the two concepts, namely aina and tawarruk. If the same asset goes back to the original seller, then it refers to aina, while if the same asset does not go back to the original seller, rather it is sold to another party, to that party, with the same purposes to obtain liquidity, then it is called tawarruk. And the Sharia scholars view, especially from four established school, yeah, empat madhab from the Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, and Hanbali have basically approved the concept of commodity murabahah or tawarruk in its classical form. Yeah, the Hanafi, for example, classified ena into two types. One is dislike ena, and the second one is permissible ena. The permissible ena basically refer to the tawarruk concept in which the same asset does not go back to the original seller. But dislike ena is the one where the asset return back to the original seller. According to Maliki school, the concept of tawarruk should be allowed by any party, provided that the transaction involve no prior arrangement or collusion. We call tawatu. And this Maliki school has been basically adopted by some contemporary Sharia scholars and fatwa issuing bodies like Majma' Fiqh Academy, Majma' Rabita, in which the tawarruk, the current practice of tawarruk is impermissible because the arrangement involve collusion, yeah, pre-organized tawatu, yeah, in which the transaction is not really genuine and authentic in nature. And according to Shafi'i, because the Shafi'i perhaps is the only school who approve inah, yeah, then for sure tawarruk is more permissible because the trick toward hila, yeah, the trick toward riba in tawarruk may be more remote, yeah, more distance, because the same asset does not go back to the real seller. And according to Hanbali school, as mentioned earlier, this is the first school who familiarized the term tawarruk. The overwhelming majority of Hanbali school approved tawarruk. Only Ibn Taymiyyah Ibn Qayyim from the Hanbali school dismissed the tawarruk concept on the basis of blocking the means, saddu dhari'ah, to commit riba, and the statement of Imam Umar bin Abdul Aziz, which regarded tawarruk as the origin of riba. At-tawarruku huwa asasiyatul riba. This is the Sharia scholars' views of tawarruk, yeah, the classical Sharia scholars' view. Moving on to the contemporary fatwa and views of modern practice of murabahah in Islamic finance. So the fatwa, the contemporary fatwa of Committee Murabahah or Tawarruk started from the fatwa issued by Majma' Rabitah in 1998, which resolved the Tawarruk, the permissibility of Tawarruk. And later on in 2002, the Al-Barakah Symposium, Nadwah Dal Al-Barakah also resolved the permissibility of the Committee Murabahah concept for real necessity, if there is any real need. And then in 2003, the same organization, namely Majma' Rabitah, which previously approved tawarruk, yeah, concept, clarify its stand, yeah, its position by distinguishing between the classical tawarruk, we call tawarruk fiqhi, and the organized tawarruk or the modern practice tawarruk, saying that while the classical tawarruk is permissible, as also has been approved by most of the classical scholars from 4 established schools. On the other hand, the modern practice of tawarruk, yeah, which refer to organized tawarruk, is impermissible. Yeah. And then later on, we have the resolution from the Sharia Advisory Council of Bank Negara Malaysia in Malaysia, which resolved the permissibility of tawarruk in both deposit and financing product in Islamic banking. And in 2008, the Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, AOIFI, also issued the Sharia standard, yeah, number 30, which also resolve the permissibility of organized tawarruk with a certain condition. For example, the use of tawarruk can only be for liquidity management. And in 2009, the Jeddah-based International Islamic Fiqh Academy, or ICDX Academy, Majma' Fiqh Academy, also passed a resolution that the modern practice of tawarruk is impermissible. And this resolution is basically similar to the previous resolution made by Majma' Rabitah in 2003. And in Indonesia, basically, we have also a dedicated resolution issued by our National Syariah Council, DSN MUI, number 82 in 2011, regarding the commodity trading, which resolve the practice of commodity trading or commodity murabahah trading is permissible based on certain Sharia principle and conditions. So in a nutshell, basically, the contemporary Sharia scholars toward the practice of tawarruk in the modern context are divided into two. One is impermissible, like the resolution and fatwa from Majma' Fiqh and Majma' Rabitah, and the other side allow the practice of tawarruk with certain condition and restriction, like AWFI, Dewan Syariah Nasional MUI, Dalal Al-Barakah, Dubai Islamic Bank, as well as Kuwait Finance House. Now, in terms of the practice of commodity murabahah, in many jurisdictions, basically, the commodity murabahah has been structured and applied for various banking, capital market product, ranging from deposit to financing, liquidity management and debt restructuring, governance and corporate sukuk, as well as for risk management and hedging purposes. And this is basically a brief illustration how the commodity murabahah concept is applied in the modern Islamic finance landscape, in which, in addition to having two parties, namely bank as a financier in the context of financing and customer, we have also add the rule of brokers, namely broker A and broker B, facilitated by commodity murabahah platform. Like in the case of Indonesia, we have ICDX, to ensure that the same asset, the same property, the same CPU, for example, the same underlying asset does not go back to the original seller, so that the concept of tawarruk can be perfected. And this is some of the available platform for commodity murabahah to be transacted in the market. We have many from Malaysia, like Bursa Suku Sila, Able Ace, Sedania, including Syuraka Al-Amin trading platform. We have also in UK by the name of Eiger Trading as a commodity murabahah platform. In Bahrain, we have E-Taisir. In Dubai, we have CMTP. Later on, we have Dr. Aiman that will be share more extensively on the practice of commodity murabahah in Middle East and Europe. We have also in Pakistan as another commodity murabahah platform. And in some jurisdiction also, there are different practices in terms of the commodity murabahah, whether it is applied wider in wider scope, like for banking, deposit, financing, sukuk, or in some practices like in Sudan, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. I believe that later Dr. Aiman will also share more details. The concept of tawarruk will be very restrictive. In Oman is another country that perhaps dismissed tawarruk outright. Similarly, Pakistan allowed tawarruk in a very restrictive situation. And I believe other two speakers will share with you on the practice of tawarruk in Malaysia, in GCC, and Europe in more details. Moving on to the practice of tawarruk in Brunei Darussalam. Before I share with you on the commodity murabahah in Brunei Darussalam, let me share with you on the Islamic finance landscape in the country. So currently we have 11 financial institutions offering Islamic financial products and services, covering banking. We have only one single Islamic bank, full-fledged, by the name of Bank Islam Brunei Darussalam, BIBD. And we have one fund company, BIBD At-Tamwil, only offering vehicle financing. And we have three securities company, namely BIBD's Securities as a full-fledged, and SBI Securities, and we have also Standard Chartered Securities as Windows, capital market Windows. And we have four takaful operators in the country, one pawnbroker and one Islamic trust fund, by the name of TAIB. And in terms of the number, I'm happy to share that currently the Islamic financial sector in the country contributed to more than 57% of the total financial asset in the country, in which 95.2% of the Islamic financial asset in Brunei Darussalam is contributed by deposit-taking institution or Islamic banking. while only 4.8% is basically contributed by the Takaful company. And in terms of the Islamic banking market share, in Brunei, although we have only one single Islamic bank operating in Brunei, the market share of Islamic bank contributed to more than 61%, yeah, compared to the total banking asset nationally. So the application of Committee Murabah in Salam is quite open, not only for liquidity management via interbank money market activities, but also for financing product in Islamic banking, like for personal finance, overdraft, education financing, consolidated financing, property financing, home improvement financing, and even one of the Islamic securities offering private equity product based on commodity murabahah transaction. So in a nutshell, basically, Brunei Darussalam applied our concept in more open approach, not only for liquidity management purposes via interbank money market activities, but also extended into commercial banking product as well as for capital market structure. And the advantages and benefit of the murabah that the country has basically offered and can also be offered by other jurisdiction, yeah, having community murabah in place is the concept provide flexibility, yeah, that can cater to diverse financial needs from education, personal finance, home financing, and other purposes. The community murabah can also offer the similar features of conventional product and services. It can easily replicate, yeah, the conventional features of product and services like capital guarantees, fixed return, prepayment flexibilities, in which some Islamic concept like mudharabah, musyarakah, perhaps may not have that kind of flexibility. And this concept also promote transparency and fair pricing, in which the price can also be determined based on the negotiation process, especially if the committee murabahah involve musawamah principle. And this concept, of course, just like other concepts, can serve as a catalyst for economic growth by facilitating working capital and trade. So to end my presentation, the benefit and advantages of committee murabah can also be further extended to the context of Indonesia, perhaps by allowing this concept to certain purposes, like for liquidity management and for personal finance, in which the other concept cannot basically cover the needs of the financing of the product in which the asset or the services are required. But the committee murabah provide flexibility in which the product does not require for the customer, for example, or for the bank to have a pre-existing asset or services. And of course, we also propose that this concept having a high degree of risk from the operational side of point of view to be implemented in control and control environment. So that's why the regulator should put proper parameters so that the concept is not used excessively and used and misused, yeah, in its practices. And we also propose that the regulator to put in place detailed operational framework and prudential guidelines for the committee murabahah to be operative in the country, be it for liquidity management via interbank activities or for other purposes. Thank you. I stop here as the introductory discussion for this webinar. Over to you, Sister Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Mahbubi, for insightful presentation. There are some notes that I take for the Dr. Mahbubi session. Dr. Mahbubi already explained about what is the concept of commodity murabahah and what is tawarruk, and then how the practice in Brunei Darussalam, and how the Islamic thought, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali view about the tawaruk or commodity murabahah. And then in the common Islamic financial institution product using commodity murabahah, it can be used for deposit, personal financing, liquidity, or hedging. Some of the recommendation that Dr. Mabui mentioned for Indonesia, maybe Indonesia can explore to use commodity murabahah for personal financing or commodity or any other transaction which the other contracts cannot give a solution which efficient and effectively. Okay, now let's move to the second session. Let's hear from our second speaker, Prof. Datin Rusni Hasan. Prof. Datin Dr. Rusni Hasan, listed as the top 10 most influential women in Islamic business and finance globally, served as the Dean of IUM Institute Islamic Banking and Finance, or IIBF, IUM Malaysia. She's an active researcher and expert trainer in IBF. Having nearly 30 years of experience in the academia, she has taught, published, and supervised academic works, especially in the areas of Sharia, governance, and legal aspect of Islamic banking and finance. Then she is also listed as top 10 contributor for research in Islamic finance in Scopus database. Industry-wise, she is actively involved as she is the chairman and member of Sharia Committee and Board of Director of Islamic financial institutions locally and internationally. She was listed among the top women in Islamic finance in 2013 and was listed as the top 50 most influential women in Islamic finance 2018, top 10 most influential women in Islamic business and finance in 2019, 2020, 2021 consecutively, and as a woman influencer 2022 by Cambridge IFA. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Prof. Datin Rusni Hasan to present. Time is yours, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. First of all, praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that have given us the opportunity to stay or to attend the session today. And of course, having the or enjoying the Ramadan, and inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us. Thank you very much for ICDX for having myself as well as other panelists to have a very good conversation today about the commodity murabahah, the practices all over the world, if I were to say, and how this practice of commodity murabahah can benefit the Indonesian Islamic finance market. Yeah. So the first session by Dr. Mahbubi basically have put the overview on the commodity murabahah, the what we call it, the concepts and whatnot. And I will be going to the perspective of commodity murabahah in Malaysia. Yeah. So basically, okay, this is about where I come from. I am from the Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. I believe that some of you may have heard about IUM or Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. We are the Center of Excellence in Education and Research in Islamic Banking and Finance. Yeah? And then we receive several awards for our what we call it, teaching and learning as well as research in Islamic banking and finance. So basically, my point here is that this is my area of what we call it focus and area of specialization, of which I am happy to share some of my thought on the topic that is on the pertaining to the commodity murabahah and how the commodity murabahah would be able to help Islamic finance market, particularly in Indonesia. Now, as for the introduction, I go to the very big perspective of Islamic finance ecosystem. Now, we have seen that Islamic finance ecosystem have gone beyond the financial performance. Now, at one point of time, we may notice that most of the focus on Islamic finance at the beginning in particular, and if I were to say that, the first 10 to 20 years or 10 to 15 years, a lot of focus on Islamic finance, basically on the financial performance. And the advantage of that is that people are seeing that Islamic finance is a viable financial solutions to the world. So thus, the revenue generated from the Islamic banking and Islamic financial institutions bring up a good opportunity, and it also entice the financial institutions, the conventional in particular, to support and to explore the opportunity on Islamic finance. And such, we can see that a lot of growth in Islamic banking and finance. Dr. Mahbubi shared a bit and then our what we call it the introduction by the director of ICDX have given us a perspective on the landscape on the numbers in terms of Islamic banking and finance. But after 30 to 40 years of Islamic banking and finance, we can see that Islamic finance goes beyond financial performance, but rather than there are other important aspects that have been that comes together and support the growth and the development of Islamic banking and finance. Islamic finance is a known system in terms of protecting and giving or ensuring a good governance practice in the world. Okay? Other than that, of course, there are many reports also talking about awareness and knowledge become one of the very important sector or important, I would say, component in terms of ensuring sustainability of Islamic banking and finance. Now, I am sharing here the report by IFDI, we call it Islamic Finance Development Indicator report, of which Malaysia and Indonesia seems to be there in the first three rank, as the first three top countries in terms of the ecosystem in Islamic banking and finance. So we are not only talking about financial performance. We may not be able to beat other countries who are very big in terms of Islamic banking and finance, but the two countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, are good in terms of knowledge and awareness as well as good governance. This is a very important aspect to ensure that the development of Islamic banking and finance are balanced, okay, and it's sustained for a long time. Now, industry are talking a lot about sustainability, about ESG, about green finance, about social finance. All of these components, all of these aspects are not something new to Islamic banking, but rather than it is always embedded there in the Islamic banking and finance. Now, my point of sharing this is that to see or to show that Malaysia and Indonesia in particular, when we talk about Islamic banking and finance, we are very serious about widespreading or about contributing to the knowledge and awareness. And I believe the session today that we are having is one of the very initiatives that have been headed and led by ICDX. And then having the panel and giving the perspective of different countries and different regions on the practice is definitely one of the important components in terms of ensuring that Islamic banking and finance in both respective countries are done in a very good and sustainable manner. So I believe that other financial institutions as well as education institutions like the institution that I'm representing. But beyond that, there are many other institutions that are also actively involved in the what we call it spreading the knowledge and awareness on Islamic banking and finance. Now, when we talk about what we call it Islamic banking and finance just now, we also talk one of the other aspect is of course product diversification, product innovation and diversification. And of course, we have seen that Islamic banking started from the very beginning with one or few products, with several products only. But we go to the what we call it Islamic banking industry as of now. We have a lot of and very diversified products and instruments. And this definitely provide a good alternative to the customer, to the industry practitioners. Yeah. So of course, bringing the perspective of my sharing today, Malaysia, for example, and I believe the same scenario also will be is happening in other countries. We are very committed. Industry is very committed in terms of product diversification, because product diversification ensure the growth, and of course it meet up the demand and expectation of the country, of the government, and most importantly the customers and clients. Yeah. Now, of course, we develop products, and even in our diversification of the products, the underlying Sharia culture or the underlying Sharia contract is definitely our first priority. Whatever that we develop, we must ensure that whatever that we do comply with the Sharia perspective. Now, we look into the perspective of commodity murabahah. Definitely, why we choose commodity murabahah? Because it is Sharia compliant. And that is the mandate that have been given to us, the practitioners, the Islamic banks, Islamic financial institutions. And that is also the trust by the community, by the government, by the other stakeholders, that when we offer Islamic banking products, we must ensure that whatever that we offer, whatever that we serve to the customer, definitely comply with the perspective of Sharia, comply with the Sharia perspective. So that definitely to me the very important aspect and the very important factor why we choose commodity murabahah. There could be some context of, for example, that shared earlier by Dr. Mahbubi. Some scholars who say that Sharia, what we call it, or commodity murabahah, may not be a good alternative, may not be good in terms of the Sharia perspective. But we have seen that contemporary Sharia rulings on the commodity murabahah that provide the permissibility of this product to be offered as the for the Islamic banking products, not only banking, capital market, and so on and so forth. Private equity comes into the picture as well. So in the context of Malaysia, of course, we are governed by the SEC or Sharia Advisory Council of our central bank in terms of the ruling on permissibility of commodity murabahah. And this ruling was done much earlier, very long time in 2005. Now, this is supported by IOFI, Raji Bank, Kuwait Finance House, and not to forget, of course, SN, what we call it, Dewan Syariah, National Majlis Ulama Indonesia, also talking about the same permissibility on commodity murabahah. It could be some slight difference in terms of the terms and conditions of allowing or permissibility of commodity murabahah. But these are example of Sharia ruling allowing the practice of commodity murabahah. My point and my wish that what we call it, and my call to everyone is that use this, leverage on this Sharia ruling, and then use the opportunity using the commodity murabahah for the goodness of Sharia economy, for the goodness of Islamic economy, Sharia finance, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, what is the good that it brings? It brings the growth of the Muslim community or Islamic community, and so on and so forth. We are talking about pushing forward the idea and the agenda of providing Islamic finance alternative to the public at large globally. So then, okay, leveraging on the Sharia ruling, allowing the permissibility, okay, would definitely bring us a good way forward in terms of growing the industry and the market. I think that is the main purpose of us, all three of us sharing our thought today. Yeah. Now, these are some examples that in Malaysia, similar like Dr. Mahbubi mentioned, that commodity murabahah that we can find in Malaysia. Okay, of course, Malaysia is known previously with Bai'ul Inah, and now they're moving away with Bai'ul Inah already. So commodity murabahah is one of the options that we are using as of now, either for the deposit product. There's a lot of home financing and mortgage program that we are offering based on the commodity murabahah, personal financing, credit cards, Islamic money market, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to go into details. Of course, it needs another one-day session on exploring or on explaining how the commodity murabahah works in each of the product. What is important is that the underlying structure that we are using is a commodity murabahah. What we need to understand is that the structure for the commodity murabahah for each of the product may vary from one to the other. It may vary in terms of the product structure. Okay, but the concepts are the same. Another session may be held at ICDX. I would like to propose maybe for us to go through into the details of the product, how it works in the deposits, how it works in home financing, how it works as a liquidity management for money market, and so on and so forth. This is an area of which we need to understand. All of us need to understand. We are not talking about, oh, it's the same contract of commodity murabahah and does it work similar in terms of product execution and transaction? Answer to that is not. It varies in terms of product structure. Now, we are using commodity murabahah, okay, and as you know that Dr. Mabi did mention, in some country, the term commodity murabahah is known as tawarruk. We are not quarreling or we are not questioning on the terminology here because it is in tawarruk commodity murabahah. If we are talking about the commodity murabahah underlying structure in this case. Yeah. Now, for Malaysian, what we call it data, we can see that Negara Malaysian Islamic Finance Report 2023 have shown that commodity murabahah is considered as the most practical option as of now. And we can see that commodity murabahah overall have gone very high. And this is talking about money market, liquidity management. For the money market, this data is very much on the money market. So we can see that commodity murabahah having a very good amount, a very big what we call it portion. And this is why we say that, as mentioned again, this is the most practical. You can do a lot, or you can develop a lot of what we call it alternative products and so on and so forth. And of course, in the context of Malaysia, it is what we call it suitable and friendly to our banking regulatory requirement and setting. Okay? And at the same time also, it is Sharia compliant, and in fact, Sharia compliant is the main or the important what we call it consideration. And of course, it also provides the best available solution to meet up the expectation of the customers for different types of products and so on and so forth. Yeah, liquidity management is one, but other than that, there are other products that we can develop using the same concept of commodity murabahah. Yeah, so we can see that in Malaysia in particular, okay, this is the scenario of commodity murabahah as of now. Now, and this is again what we call it another data from Bank Negara, from the central bank, in terms of the performance between, and then we can see the growth from 2019 to 2022, that in terms of the product of commodity murabahah growing very fast. Yeah. Now again, why? Because of this practicality. We cannot deny that it grows very fast. It grows very fast. So why then commodity murabahah is growing very fast? Again, on the same point that I did mention, because it is Sharia compliant. And number two, that it is flexible. You can develop, you can use it in different products and instruments and so on and so forth. Okay. And it can also meet up the expectation of the industry as well as the consumer at large. Okay? So this growth, then we can see that the flexibility of commodity murabahah. Yeah. Now, these are examples of the commodities that Malaysia in particular are using for the commodity murabahah transaction. Previously, we used very much highly rely on the CPO, crude palm oil. But due to a lot of demand by the industry in terms of the transactions, and therefore, now we have other alternatives. Okay, so the alternatives can be in the form of, for example, metals, plastic resin, rubber, crude oil, coconut oil, airtime, and so on and so forth. Now, this is actually the example of the growth of the economy. Previously, the idea of having CPO to be the main commodity to be used for our commodity murabahah, taking into consideration that Malaysia is the biggest producer of palm oil. Yeah? And thus, it is also good. It is definitely good to use our own produce for the trading, for the commodity murabahah. Not only it support the plantation and another economic sector, and thus it grow the industry and the country as a whole. Yeah. And the expansion of the commodities also is due to the great demand and then the growth of the numbers of the transaction. Okay. Now, of course, the big and the landmark of the commodity murabahah transactions in Malaysia, of course, is marked by the establishment of Bursa Suk Asila, which is a commodity trading platform. And this is the initiative by the government, spearheaded by Central Bank of Malaysia, Securities Commission, Bursa Malaysia, as well as the industry players. So this is what is the basis? Why then motivation for Bursa Suk Asila to be established? Is of course number one, to ensure Sharia compliant trading of Islamic banking and finance, and that it can support Islamic banking and finance transaction. Yeah. So that is the first one. Now, so how it is done at Bursa Suk Asila? A careful consideration facilities and infrastructure was developed to ensure that the Sharia compliant and governance are good there, to ensure that whatever expectation of the Sharia are met accordingly. And thus it grow the economy because it is homeborn, it is homegrown of the country. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to share this, what we call it, Dr. Mabubi have broadly explained on this, but this is how Bursa Suk Asila commodity murabahah structure works. Okay. And then again, if I were to, what we call it, say that it need another session for us to go through on how the transaction is, what we call it, structured. Now, again, a bit more on Bursa Suk Asila. And I believe this is where ICDX can also learn from the development of Bursa Suk Asila, having the same mandate, having the same objective. Now, when we look into the development, of course, we cannot be doing everything at one call. You must develop and then enhance the infrastructure, continuously according to phases and whatnot. Again, what is the mandate, the big objective, or the biggest motivation of having our Bursa Suk Asila? Number one is the Sharia compliant requirement. So infrastructure must be developed to ensure that all the requirement of Sharia is met accordingly. Previously, we may have some issue of delivery of the subject matter when we are trading with external, international, conventional broker. But now having it in a Sharia compliant way, so delivery is ensured. Yeah, very much. So all the technicalities are very much addressed accordingly. And thus it gives the confidence to the industry players, to the Islamic banks and whatnot, to use the service and then to trade what we call it, their products and whatnot through visas. Number two, of course, you are talking about utilizing your own product, your own produce, crude palm oil, of which I believe that Indonesia have that particular strength. And thus, I would suggest that this is where the opportunity in front of Indonesian market to do the same in terms of exploring what we call it commodity murabahah. And of course, while doing this, we cannot deny the importance of IT infrastructure to ensure that the trading is smooth and seamless. So that is the development of Bursa Suk Asila. Okay, sorry. Okay, now what is the benefit in the context of Malaysia? Okay, Dr. Mabri have shared already. Again, we are talking about a lot of focus on liquidity management. Okay, it facilitates trade and commerce. Already explained, I'm not going to explain back again. And of course, underlying that is Sharia compliant. transactions. Okay? So all these definitely can meet up the expectation of the stakeholders in the Islamic finance industry. It can meet the expectation of the consumer. It can meet the expectation of the what we call it Islamic banks and Islamic financial institutions. It definitely can push up the ecosystem as well as the economy of the country. So thus, we are looking at the perspective that this is the option that we do have. It is Sharia compliant, and why not? We are doing, and then we seriously think about how can we do, how can we utilize, and how can we leverage on the benefit of commodity murabahah. Now, my last words, maybe my last slides here is very much on what Indonesia need to do, basically, in terms of exploring, in terms of maximizing the opportunity of using commodity murabahah in the Indonesian market. Number one is, of course, awareness, knowledge and awareness, which we are doing today. So that's why we don't put it here. Okay? But definitely, knowledge and awareness is something is very important, very fundamental, because without what is commodity murabahah, how the commodity murabahah can be transacted, what is the benefit to the client, to the financial institution, to the economy and to the country, then you would not be able to appreciate the benefit of it. So knowledge and awareness is important. Number two, again, we are talking about regulatory framework. A lot of what you need to develop is that the governance system, ensuring good governance on the commodity murabahah is definitely important. Yeah? We do not want any manipulation. People who do not really understand how commodity murabahah should be transacted, adopting it and then offer it as a product, but it does not comply with the Sharia principles. So your Sharia compliant assurance system must be good. So the framework on ensuring the regulatory framework policies and if the need be bigger, for example, the legal framework must be developed to ensure that it is done in a correct manner. Your market infrastructure must be robust enough. I think this is important. So the market infrastructure would definitely involve a lot of investment, research, collaborative efforts between ICDX and other stakeholders, support from the government, support from the regulatory authority, OJK, for example, CONEX, for example, for the infrastructure to be developed. And this definitely ensure the good ecosystem, the good governance, and truly Sharia compliance environment and operation of the commodity murabahah in the country. Now, the Sharia compliant framework is not only for commodity murabahah, but I believe this is also for other types of contract. So enhancing your commodity, what we call it, your regulatory good governance, okay, definitely not only for the commodity murabahah, but also for overall cooperation, banking, contracts, transactions, and so on. So that is definitely undeniable, what we call it, factor to ensure that we run and we operate based on the Sharia compliance. And then once we are good in terms of Sharia compliance, we'll be able to achieve the maqasid of Sharia. And then we must always believe that once we do it right, there is, of course, the component of the barakah of Allah, of God. Okay, so this is some very, very deep and intrinsic value. Not only that we achieve the goodness in terms of growing the market, we also achieve the goodness of maqasid, naming it ESG, sustainability, poverty elevation, creating job employability, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely the work that we need to be doing together as Islamic finance, what we call it, practitioners, Islamic finance researchers, academicians, and then institutions, and so on. So I end my words by that. And I wish the very best to Indonesia in terms of exploring not only commodity murabahah, but other products and innovation for the group. You are there already. In fact, both countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, are there already in the market, okay, in the landscape, but we would like to do better. And because by doing better, we will be able to give back to the people, we give back to the government generally, and the world, the ummah generally. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Prof. Rusni, for valuable insight. There are some things that I highlighted. The first one is Islamic finance. Previously, maybe just want to go for financial performance, but now Islamic finance is more to sustainable finance, social finance, and beyond the financial performance. The second one, Prof. Rusni point is commodity murabah is Sharia compliant product. So why not we're using that contract or that product to leverage, to use and to make improvement in Islamic finance. We have to make sure that the operational and the implementation of commodity murabah is comply with all Sharia compliance. And then the third one, Prof. Rusni also motivate Indonesia development in Islamic finance on commodity murabahah alongside the awareness and knowledge. The Indonesia should strengthening the legal and regulatory framework, and then market infrastructure should be there, so people which interact in the commodity murabahah contract will do the contract in Sharia manner. Okay, now it's getting more interesting. Now we move to the third section. Now we want to hear from Dr. Aiman Rashid and how commodity murabahah is practiced in the Middle East and Europe. Dr. Aiman Rashid is currently the Executive Director of Amani Advisors Dubai office and specialized in the legal and Sharia aspect of Sharia compliant financial products and services. With over 13 years of practical experience in the Islamic finance industry, he is a certified Sharia advisor and auditor by IOV Bahrain, certified Islamic banker and Islamic specialist in capital market by Cibafi Bahrain, and a qualified lawyer by the Malaysian Bar Association. He is an AOV committee member under the Education Board. He holds a PhD in Islamic Banking and Finance from IUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance, a master's degree in Islamic Finance from the University of Durham, UK, and Bachelor of Laws with Sharia Laws from IUM. Dr. Aiman has extensive experience advising on many Islamic financial products and transactions within the GCC, Europe, and Southeast Asia regions, ranging from banking products, capital market, public and private equities, commodities, gold, Sharia audit, and many others, while working closely with major financial institutions, corporations, regulators, investors, traders, Sharia scholars, lawyers, and other stakeholders. His advisory clients include Tier 1 to 3 international banks, top asset management companies, central banks, international exchange houses, as well as SMEs. Okay, so I guess our three speakers somehow related to IUM, even the moderator and the MC. So today is IUM alumni webinar. Okay, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Aiman Rashid. The time is yours.
Thank you very much, Ibu Yosita, our moderator for today, respected Prof. Rusdi, respected Dr. Mahbubi, my esteemed fellow speakers for the day, and of course, last but not least, the team at ICDX, led by Pak Nur Salam, the President, CEO, the President, and the other ICDX team members who have organized this wonderful event. And also to all participants who are attending from Indonesia and from all the rest of the world. So I'll be continuing our presentation today on the role of commodity murabahah in the global market. particularly in the GCC, particularly in the Middle East and the European market. So Dr. Mahmoubi has started by laying out the literature review, the basis of commodity murabahah, the Sharia justification. So I will not touch on that. He's the expert on commodity murabahah. Prof. Rusni has also extended it to the application in Malaysia. Dr. Mahmoubi touched the application in Brunei. So probably we'll fly out a bit to a different region. We're going to the GCC region, and we'll touch a bit on the European region to see the application of commodity murabahah on an overall global basis. Because when we talk about commodity murabahah, it would not be, I would say, it would not be proper to just limit it to a certain region, a certain part of the world, but we want to see it from a global market perspective as well, which is beneficial for the purpose of the Islamic finance industry development as well as the commodity murabahah development as well, specifically in terms of the Sharia contract used. Ibu Yosita, of course, has mentioned a bit about my background. Just to add a bit, I'm trying to add value a bit for our discussion today when it comes to the practicality of the commodity murabahah application, because my current role at Amani Advisors, we're a Sharia advisor, so we advise a lot of financial institutions outside of South Asia primarily. So from there, I would be more than happy to share the experiences of seeing the application of commodity murabahah by these financial institutions in the Middle East as well as in Europe, so that we can probably use the knowledge and experience to find a global, I would say, meeting point and acceptability, so that cross-border or international transactions will be very seamless, very standardized moving forward. We'll be looking into the two regions, Middle East and then Europe, and we'll be touching on the commodity murabahah overview and latest data wherever applicable, a bit of the structure and infrastructure of commodity murabahah, and lastly, impact and benefit. And later on, after I finish my session within 15 minutes or so, we'll continue with the main Q&A session with Ibu Yosita. Middle East and Europe. So we will be starting with Middle East. So I was following the discussion by Dr. Mahmoubi and Prof. Rusni, where we first established the basis of commodity murabahah and the Sharia acceptance of commodity murabahah. So there were the authorities which were mentioned approving and endorsing commodity murabahah as an accepted Sharia instrument or accepted Sharia scholar, accepted Sharia contract for the purpose of Islamic banking and financial transaction. So there was Majma' Fiqhi mentioned, Rabitah Alamiyah, there was certain authorities, IUFI, and certain banks also mentioned, for example, Kuwait Finance House and Al-Raji Bank. So those are two examples of banks which have, of course, through their Sharia Supervisory Board, have approved commodity murabahah. But just to add on that, in the Middle East, of course, I mean, most of the countries in the Middle East are Islamic countries. There are many Islamic banks over here, and all of these banks, I would say almost all of them participate in Islamic banking and finance, because the nature of the demographic of the Middle Eastern countries are Muslim majority based citizens and residents. So it wouldn't be, I would say, viable not to offer Islamic banking and financial services. And due to Sharia governance requirement, due to regulatory requirements, each of these banks who wants to offer Islamic banking products need to have its own Sharia board. So all of these banks have their own Sharia board. So other than Al-Raji and Kuwait Finance House and Dubai Islamic Bank, all of other Islamic banks or non-Islamic banks which operate, which offer Islamic banking products using Islamic window operation, also have their own Sharia board, and each of these Sharia boards have also approved commodity murabahah as a Sharia contract for Islamic banking products and financial services. So you can imagine there's so many, each of the banks have 3 to 5 Sharia scholars times 20, 30 banks. So there's a lot of Sharia scholars who have sat on the Sharia boards and deliberated on the acceptability of commodity murabahah, and in the end they have came to a consensus that commodity murabahah is acceptable Sharia contract. So this gives additional Sharia validation that commodity murabah is a well accepted. Of course, there are differences of opinion. There's one or two mentioned. I think Majma' Fiqh Islami will say it's impermissible, but in the end, I think we work on the majority decision. The Jumhur ulama, so as a practice by way of uruf, commodity murabah has been used extensively in the market nowadays. So as a start, I will be sharing a bit of statistic, but just as a starting point, these statistics are not available in the market. There's a lot of statistics on the ratio of or the share of Islamic finance of the country, but unfortunately there are no specific statistics of the use of this or that Sharia contract against the rest. So these statistics are primarily done on a manual basis, simply by way of looking into public information available in the public data, and then from there we created this. Me and my team created this statistics ourselves. So as you can see here on the slide, commodity murabah as a Sharia contract, Islamic finance is huge. Of course, there's like all the market shares of Islamic finance against conventional finance. For example, in the UAE, it's about 25%. In Saudi, I think it's 40%. And Islamic finance keeps on growing on a year-to-year basis. It's a long way to catch because conventional finance has been there for many hundreds of years, and Islamic finance probably became active since the 1970s or 1980s. So it's an uphill task. It's a long way to go, but getting about 20 to 50% market share is significant, incredible achievement of Islamic banking and finance industry as a whole. Then we're talking about the use of statistics of use of commodity murabah as a Sharia contract for all of these products and financial, all of these banking and financial products. So based on the statistics that we've obtained, it's undeniable that commodity murabah is a very popular Sharia contract. It accumulates to almost 83% of the bank's underlying Sharia structure for banking and financial products and services. Only about 70% doesn't use commodity murabah, and this is mainly in Oman, because Oman as a country, unfortunately, till date, has not accepted commodity murabah as a viable or as an accepted Sharia instrument. So we were talking earlier about the differences of Sharia opinion. So Oman is an example case in the Middle East where commodity murabah has not yet been accepted, but I believe it's an ongoing dialogue, and there's a lot of still negotiation going with the authorities over there in Oman to finally accept commodity murabah. So if we take out Oman, the rest of the Islamic finance countries, particularly the GCC countries, where I'm based in the UAE, all of them accept commodity murabah, hence the overwhelming majority of the pie chart here. So these are the sample, these are the data that we collected in terms of the number or the type, the number of the banks here in the UAE, for example, in the GCC. So there's two types of banks, two categories. If I can broadly categorize them. One is full-fledged Islamic banks, and the other one is conventional banks with Islamic window operation. So UAE, Saudi, we work on a Islamic window basis. In other countries like Qatar, they don't allow Islamic window, so it works on a subsidiary basis. So these are certain countries which if I can highlight, in the countries, in the relevant GCC countries, which these are the relevant banks, and these are the application of commodity murabah as the underlying Sharia contract for their banking products and services. So you can see there's Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, Dubai Islamic Bank, Emirates Islamic Bank. In UAE, I'm not going to read out all. And then in Saudi, there's Al Raji, Al Jazeera, Al Bilad, Al Inma. In Qatar, there's Qatar Islamic Bank, Masraf Al Rayyan, Qatar International Bank, Bahrain, Al Barakah, As-Salam. In Kuwait, there's other than KFH, there's Warabah Bank, Bubian Bank. So all of these banks use commodity murabah. So when everyone uses commodity murabah, automatically it becomes a market norm. It becomes a common practice. It becomes the best market practice. So everyone would naturally or unnaturally follow suit, because if they don't follow suit, then it's difficult for them to do business and business and financial activities with their counterparty banks. Moving on to the next slide. So these are another thing that I wanted to highlight is the application of commodity murabah in the various types of products, various types of banking products and financial services. So our benchmark here is the retail products, because retail products is, I would say, would give you a public perception of how commodity murabah is accepted. of course, on top of retail, you have the corporate and investment banking, but these are mainly transactions between financial institutions, which doesn't really show the market perception or the public data. But when it comes to retail, when it touches the ground, when it hits the individuals of the country, then it shows acceptability from a nationwide view, from a bird's eye view. So these are the statistics of retail products offered by the banks that I mentioned to you just now. So there's the commodity murabahah is used across all of these products: credit card, home financing, personal financing, vehicle financing. But this data probably would zoom in a bit on what type of products commodity murabahah is popularly being used. So you can see the lion's share of this, or the majority of this, is personal financing, because commodity murabahah is a very popular, and I would say perhaps the only way to facilitate cash financing. If you're talking about asset financing, for example, vehicle financing or machinery financing, then we can do murabahah, purchase order, murabahah asset financing, as we call it. So bank buys and bank sells the asset. But when it comes to cash financing, you need cash, you don't need the asset, then commodity murabahah is probably the only, I would say, prudent or viable way to do it, and hence why it's used extensively in personal finance and credit card application. There's a small share of commodity murabahah used for vehicle financing and home financing, but it's not quite popular because home financing, because it's a long-term sort of financing, so you cannot fix the rate. So you use ijarah financing to change the rates or over time. In vehicle financing, it's more popular using murabahah asset finance rather than commodity murabahah. A bit of the rationale of using commodity murabahah. Commodity murabahah is very popular because again, it's perhaps the only way at present to facilitate monetization, to facilitate or to allow for cash financing. And from a banking or from a risk point of view, it ticks all the box. For example, it ensures a capital guarantee because of the structure. The two panelists have discussed how commodity murabahah works. It ensures capital guarantee, it ensures a fixed rate, and ensures a recourse element to the customer. So these are all, like, when it comes to risk assessment of offering a product, these are all like the important risks to be considered by the risk team in order to finally enroll a product. So commodity murabahah ticks all the box, and a lot of banks like to use it. Another point is, I will start touching more towards the banking side just now, but I would like to touch a bit on Islamic private equity as well, which was my PhD thesis. So I also proposed and explored the use of commodity murabahah as the underlying investment Sharia investment structure for private equity investment. So we'll be talking about banking industry, right? But little has been discussed about the alternative market space. And within alternative market, you have private equity. So traditionally, everyone, when it comes to private equity investments, we will use the default Sharia structure of wakalah, mudarabah, musyarakah, the Sharia equity structures. But there's so many Sharia restrictions or Sharia screening guidelines or Sharia guidelines when it comes to equity investment. Hence, when we blend it, or when we do an alternative Sharia structuring involving commodity murabahah, it gives more flexibility to the investment manager, to the fund manager, as well as the investor, to be able to invest into a wider or more diversified asset or portfolio of assets. So commodity murabahah is very important, not just within the banking space, but also we've extended its application to the alternative market or the private equity space as well. Touching a bit on the structure and infrastructure. When we talk about structure and infrastructure, of course, number one that comes into mind is the legal and judicial framework of commodity murabahah. So, for example, commodity murabahah has been recognized. It's undisputed. It's recognized, and it's recognized by the law of the land. For example, in the UAE, murabahah has been mentioned in Article 506 of the UAE Civil Code. So, the moment murabahah is mentioned in the law of the land, then it by default gives permissibility of the usage of that Sharia structure within the jurisdictions of that particular law or that particular territory. Secondly, the regulatory governance. For example, again in the UAE, I'm emphasizing a bit on the UAE because I'm based in Dubai, UAE. When it comes to regulatory governance, the Central Bank of the UAE has its own Sharia board, which is called the High Sharia Authority. And the High Sharia Authority adopted IOF standards, which gives permissibility of commodity murabahah as a Sharia structure. So this goes top down from the law, from the regulation, from the regulator, and lastly is the judicial precedent. So commodity murabahah has also been subject to legal or litigation disputes in the courts of the law, and there are a couple, not a lot, but there's a couple of cases where the judge already provided or held the permissibility of commodity murabahah. Whether the claim of the claimant holds water or whether they win the case is a different story. But what matters is the courts, the judges in the courts have also applied has also give a ruling that commodity murabahah is a valid Sharia contract in the eyes of the courts of the law. Sharia governance, I mentioned just now about the HSA, the High Sharia Authority in the UAE, adopted IUFI standards. Other than the HSA in Central Bank of UAE, the Central Bank of Bahrain also adopts IUFI. IUFI is an organization based in Bahrain, so the Central Bank of Bahrain adopted them, and it remains the best market practice, although not mandatory, although not a regulatory requirement for other countries in the GCC, but it remains a best market practice when it comes to cross-border transaction. And we can see from the sukuk issuances of, we're going to the Islamic capital market now. We can see in the sukuk issuances of sovereign of nations, Saudi, UAE issue sukuk, and these sukuk structures apply a hybrid structure, and it always involves commodity murabahah as the underlying Sharia structure as well. So this also gives permissibility and validity of the use of commodity murabahah. Last but not least, in terms of the infrastructure, we have the commodity murabahah brokers market. So in order to facilitate commodity murabahah transaction, like Dr. Mahboobi mentioned earlier, there's at least 4 parties. There's like broker A, broker B. So in order to facilitate the application of commodity murabahah, we need all this infrastructure available. And in the GCC, there's a lot of there's various commodity murabahah brokers which have very significant presence. So but these are from GCC itself. So far, there's DMCC Trade Flow. There's Nasdaq, which uses as an innovation in the market, instead of using commodity, they use shares, but it's a subject matter of commodity murabahah and innovation in the market. But the rest of the commodity brokers over here, they come from the different regions, interestingly. So they come from, normally it's from the European market. So you have DDCAP, you have IGER, and also the Malaysian players, Able, Shoraka. So this is, of course, an opportunity for the likes of ICDX, for example, to offer your services and make the marketplace over here in the GCC to use Indonesian brokerage and commodities as well. So this is something for us to definitely look into in the future. These are the challenges. Of course, commodity murabahah doesn't come without its challenges. There's still ongoing, like I would say, a smaller sideline disputes or discussion on the validity of it. I mean, it's an ongoing and never-ending debate, but it has been approved by a lot of Sharia boards, Sharia authorities of the world, so we don't have to worry about that. And now in the Middle East, because we adopt IUFI standards, so there's a lot of scrutiny with regards to applying commodity murabahah according to the IUFI standards. So that's another discussion, very technical discussion on how to make sure the commodity murabahah application complies with the relevant IUFI standards. Let's touch base a bit on the commodity murabahah practice in Europe. Okay, unlike just as a I would say earlier note, unlike commodity murabahah application in the GCC, where it's a Muslim majority countries, where commodity murabahah can be seen used very, very extensively, where there's data available in the market, Europe is a different territory altogether. And as we all know, Europe is a Western market. Muslims are vast minority in all of the European countries. So unfortunately, there are no public available data to say that this is the data of Islamic finance. Even there's no available data on Islamic finance industry as a whole. What more to the specific Sharia contract data? So what we did was, and taking into advantage and experience from my current role at Aman Advisors, so we advise a lot of these Western banks who wishes to offer Islamic financial products to come into this region, as well as offering to their limited set of clients in the European market. So a bit about the history. So in Europe, Islamic finance, I would say, can be traced back in the 1980s, where We were talking about commodity murabahah brokers just now, right? So two of the most popular brokers, DDCAM and IGER, they use LME, London Metal Exchange, as the underlying commodities for the purpose of commodity murabahah transaction. So in the 1980s, at that time, probably Malaysia hasn't developed the commodity market as of yet. So a lot of commodity murabahah use LME. So it traced back since 1980s. And then it started with UK banks offering Sharia compliant liquidity management products to IFIs from GCC. So conventional banks started to offer Islamic placement products. So GCC banks used to place with the GCC, and then it became the other way around. So GCC bank emerged and developed a lot of product offerings. Then the Islamic banks in European countries started to place with the GCC banks. So this is how commodity murabahah Islamic finance developed, and commodity murabahah specifically developed by way of the treasury interbank placement activities. And then later on, of course, it gradually went into the retail market. So for example, you have the likes of the Middle Eastern banks who expanded their footprint into the European market. You have Al Ahli Bank, Qatar Islamic Bank, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, and all of these banks have commodity murabahah as the underlying Sharia structure for their products in their home country. So when they went to the European countries, of course they tried to use the approved product within that country as well. Quickly, how we can put the acceptance of commodity murabahah by these Western banks. It's driven by two major factors. One is the applicable Sharia contract used in the home country. For example, ADIB, QIB, ABC Bank just now, they have approved Sharia commodity murabahah products in their home country. So when they expanded their operation in the European countries, in UK, in France, in Switzerland, naturally they will bring the product approved by the Sharia board in the home country. So they offer commodity murabahah as well. Secondly is, let's say local banks over there, like there's not a lot of local banks in the European countries which offer Islamic banking products, but let's say these are the likes of gatehouse banks, like local European banks who started to offer Islamic banking products. They would target Islamic banking because of the demographic of their client base. So a lot of these client base, for example, are from Middle Eastern countries. Probably they are UK nationals, Swiss nationals, but their origins are from Middle Eastern countries. There's a lot of migration for the past decades, right? So these customers, these nationals which were originally from the Middle Eastern countries, prefer to continue banking with these Middle Eastern originated banks. So when they go, they want to bank in Islamic finance format. So hence the bank had to develop products according to their beliefs, according to their requirements. Hence commodity murabahah became the go-to product as well for their product development. So this is very roughly of how commodity murabahah can be seen in European market, because there's not a lot of data, but we can imply the application of commodity murabahah in the Middle East, because Middle East drives a lot the application in the Western countries. And this just is a small point when it comes to moving forward. It's about standardization. And we're looking towards when commodity murabahah is used extensively in the worldwide region, we're looking towards trying to standardize the set of documentation, because the different types of documentation also creates difficulty and challenges when it comes to cross-border transaction. And the intention moving forward is to ensure familiarity, standardization, and well acceptability of the application of commodity murabahah worldwide. I think my time is up, so I'll conclude during the Q&A session later. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Ibu Yosita.
Thank you, Dr. Aiman, for your insightful presentation. It's complete our understanding for today's commodity murabahah discussion. Some of the point that I can highlight. The first one is in the Middle East, 83% of Islamic financial institution is practice commodity murabahah. So actually, the majority allows commodity murabahah as one of Islamic finance product. And then more than 30 Islamic bank, full-fledged and window, practice commodity murabahah. So it means if there is any bank who not doing or not using the commodity murabahah contract, it will be difficult for them to transact with the bank which want to use the commodity murabahah products. And then in terms of the retail products, personal financing and credit card are the most common product using in commodity murabahah contract. And then infrastructure commodity murabahah in Middle East, they are legal and judicial, Sharia governance, and commodity murabahah brokers market. And the practice of commodity murabahah in Europe, it can be traced back since 1980s. And basically in Europe, one of the reasons that it developed commodity murabahah is because they have the GCC customers, then they provide the commodity murabahah in the Europe. It means that commodity murabahah is well-known accepted products in the GCC, Europe, and in the Asia. So then maybe for Indonesia, we can consider commodity murabahah as one of the contract, Islamic Sharia contract, that can be used to leverage market share of Islamic finance in Indonesia. Okay, now that we've heard from our experts, it's time to engage in a discussion. We encourage the participant to ask question and share your insight. We already have received a question. I will choose some of the question. Okay. Before we enter the Q&A session, I also want to remind all the participants to stay tuned until the last of the event, because the link of certificate will be given in the end of the event. Okay, maybe first for the first question is for Dr. Mahbubi. Why do home financing in Brunei and Malaysia banks use commodity murabahah contracts? Isn't it home financing basically using a murabahah contract? Okay, maybe Dr. Mahbubi can answer the first question.
Okay, thank you. I believe Prof. Datan Rusni can also add to the question, since the question also pointed out the practice of home financing in the case of Malaysia. Yes, I agree with the question that ideally commodity murabahah should only be offered or to be structured for a product or services that does not require any underlying asset or services. That's why even if we refer to IFI Sharia Standard number 30, the permissibility of commodity murabahah is confined to the situation in which there is no other alternative concept available. So it should serve as a last resort. That's why some jurisdiction only allow the practice commodity murabahah for liquidity management only, or for personal finance in instance. That's why I believe the use of commodity murabahah for home financing, car financing, for other asset back or asset based financing may not really be really ideal. Yeah, from we call the Makosid point of view. But of course, this are compliant. The question is why industry players still prefer to use commodity murabahah for different type of financing, including for home financing, car financing, in which other concept may be used, like ijara, musyarakah mutanakisah, even murabahah. One of the main reason is basically the ability of commodity murabahah to easily replicate the conventional features. So by using commodity murabahah for home financing, then the profit can be easily fixed and determined upfront. The capital, the principal amount can also be guaranteed. At the same time, the commodity murabahah allow the bank to not purchase an asset before from the developer or from the car dealer, for example, before it can actually provide financing to the customers. In commodity murabahah, of course, yes, we need an asset, but that asset, like CPU, chocolate, whatsoever underlying asset, even cable used also as an underlying asset in GCC, airtime and others, is only used to facilitate the transaction, in which it is not the main objective of the transaction. Yeah, it just used to facilitate the what we call the liquidity, the disbursement of liquidity to the customer. So by having commodity murabahah for home financing, then the contract behave like conventional, in which it is just extending we call financing amount with markup with profit margin. So the bank is not exposed to the to the risk of ownership, to the ownership risk, like in the case of musyarakah mutanakisah, for example. The bank is also not exposed to ownership risk in the case of ijara and other. So I think this the short answer for this, so that competitive murabahah is also applied for other financing purposes, even if they have asset back. Yeah, perhaps Prof. Rusni may complement.
If I may add on this point, one of the challenge faced by banks doing musyarakah mutanakisah ijarah, for example, is the issue of ownership. So this is a legal issue of which, if under the musyarakah mutanakisah ijarah and even commodity murabahah to the purchase order, where the ownership is transferred to the customer. So, and banks are basically in the law are not allowed to be the legal owner of the asset because of the legal framework that we find. So this is the constraint of the law. One of the biggest issue that they are facing is that you can't, bank definitely cannot own the asset, cannot be the legal owner registered under the law to be the legal owner of the asset, of the house. But it should always goes to the customer. So having that perspective, then banks are a bit reluctant, okay, to use the musyarakah, ijarah, and even murabahah to purchase order. Now, having it in the form of commodity murabahah, bank will not face this challenge because there is no transfer of ownership of the house to the bank. But rather than it's only the transfer of the commodity that that the bank buys from the commodity broker. The customer buys from the commodity broker and the customer. Yeah? So that's one of the big challenge that restrain, if I were to say, the banks to use or to go to commodity murabahah rather than the other, what we call it, contract that transfers, that require transfer of ownership to the banks. It's a legal challenge. Yeah.
Yes, and the ownership risk may be more obvious if the financing involve the financing for under construction or the home to be constructed. So the risk of abandonment may also trigger another Sharia and legal implication in this. Allah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mahbubi and Prof. Rusni for the explanation. Next question from YouTube participant to Dr. Aiman. The question is, from doctor's perspective, commodity murabahah are widely used by Sharia banking in the Middle East. Why don't they use a basic contract to provide financing with a profit sharing scheme?
Okay, thank you for the question. Why don't they use profit sharing scheme? When we talk about profit sharing, we're talking about Sharia equity structures, the musyarakah, the mudarabah, the wakalah. And from a banking point of view, these are high risk assets because it's equity sharing. And when it comes to personal financing, corporate financing, banks, they don't like to take the risk. And commodity murabahah is the risk is very, very low because it's on a capital guaranteed basis. Whereas profit sharing, you don't know what the return will be. So first, it's in terms of the classification, equity against debt, and banks, they don't naturally go into equity sort of business. Bank by nature, it's a debt-based institution. And number two, it's because of the risks involved to it. Equity, it's about profit sharing, which is uncertain, whereas commodity murabahah, it's debt and it's capital guaranteed. The income is secured, and it eliminates a lot of risks.
Okay. Yeah, maybe because the murabahah is a debt transaction and profit sharing is a partnership transaction, which it needs a different level of trust. Yeah. For example, if I sell something to Prof. Rusni, maybe she will easily, okay, I will buy, but if I offer a business proposal, Prof. Rusli maybe will think twice or thrice, will check whether I already have a business background and etc. Okay, maybe we can continue to the next question for Prof. Rusni. If I look at Sharia banking in Malaysia, why is it that Malaysia used to use the Bay Al-Inah contract, and now I see that the Bay Al-Inah contract is no longer used and has switched to commodity murabahah? Why?
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
please.
very much. That's a great question. Now, the why Bai'ul Inah was used, I think there are two questions that I can, get from that, or two perspectives. Number one is that why in Malaysia we did Bai'ul Inah. Now, we started Bai'ul Inah way back when we started Islamic banking, 1980, early 1990. Yeah. At that time, we do not have Malaysia, and even all over the world, we don't have much what we call it products. Yeah. And when we developed the product of Bai'ul Inah at that point of time, in fact, we want to have a Sharia compliant or Sharia contract at that point of time. The easiest way is, of course, to do or to develop a product which has the similar component with the existing product, and which at that point of time was conventional. Now, Bai'ul Inah, having it in the form of cash financing and whatnot, easily made up the infrastructure, the intermediation, and the system, the policy and framework at that point of time. So Bai'ul Inah was used, and that was considered as the best option at that time. Yeah. And thus, what we call it, the Sharia Advisory Council of Negara also come out with a ruling on the permissibility of Bai'ul Inah. Now, just to give what we call it the perspective of how the Sharia Advisory Council look at the Bai'ul Inah, it is a contract which is permissible by Sharia. What is not right here is when the usage of the transaction was done in a wrong way. If you are doing Bai'ul Inah in the right way, then it is good. But what happened, remember that when we did Bai'ul Inah, at that time, we are at the nascent stage. We are not at the level of maturity as of now that everyone or most of everyone understand what Islamic finance, what are the requirements of Sharia compliant and whatnot. Now, when the product Bai'ul Inah was developed, then Sharia people understand it. But when the product is to be put in the perspective of operationalization, whereby the one who handle the products, operationalize the product are the people who have minimum understanding of the Sharia, and therefore this is where there are mistakes and error that have been that occur in the Bai'ul Inah transaction, whereby the transaction was not done, was not executed in a proper manner. Yeah. Remember in Bai'ul Inah, there are two layers of the transaction. And because of this, what we call it, lack of awareness, lack of proper understanding of how the transaction should be conducted in Sharia, okay, and therefore, okay, to the banker, at that time, the knowledge is very minimal about Islamic banking. It looks like, there's only one transaction that needs to be, that has taken place. So instead of two transactions, there's only one transaction that has taken place, and therefore it trigger the condition, the what we call it, the issue of bay'atani fi bay'ah, two contracts in one, which is not allowed by the Sharia. Okay? So there is a lot of confusion in terms of property sale agreement, property asset sale agreement, and whatnot, which is not properly signed or properly executed. And then brings up the issue on Sharia compliance of the transaction. Now, at that time, whereby, okay, now my point here is that we started at the time where we don't have much to refer to. Our knowledge is a bit limited. We have Sharia scholars, we have bankers. but we may not have a good Sharia scholars have a good knowledge on Sharia, bankers have a good knowledge on banking operation. So there's not much of the meeting point there. Yeah. As compared to now, whereby everyone understand already. So there's no such issue that may happen. So we develop, or in the country or the industry developed that product because it was easy to match with the existing product which is conventional at that point of time, because the measurement are conventional at that point of time. The framework applicable are definitely conventional. We don't develop other infrastructure yet. So that was the best option at that point of time. Number two is that the challenge in operation be due to less knowledge and understanding on how the transaction should be done. So therefore, there's mistakes and error. And that is what that resulted to the Sharia compliance status of the contract, of the facilities that they have entered into. And therefore, Sharia Advisory Council of Central Bank come out with detailed instruction on how it should be done. Okay, how it should be done. So what we call it, and therefore the what we call it, the industry should be doing it in the right manner. Yeah, but when given time, we can see that there are other alternatives. Where there are other alternatives. So at that point of time, murabahah to purchase order come into the picture, ijarah come to the picture, musyarakah come into the picture. So rather than sticking to the bai'ul inah, the industry start moving to other products. Okay? So now the products that we are using is in addition of that what we call it, ijarah, musyarakah, mutanakisah, commodity murabahah is another option. Yeah. So that's I would to say the journey of the development and the journey of the exploration and findings for us to move. Okay. So and then to me, that is a good way to develop the the system. You can what we call it go for the very best, which it may not be practical to you. What is important is for you to develop the most practical products, taking into consideration of your environment, Sharia infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Don't afraid to start doing it, but what is important is ever willingness to improve and to do better. And because that makes you mature in terms of your journey. Yeah? Now, if, for example, for the newcomer, as of now, if you want to do Islamic banking, as of now, at this point of time in 2023, 2024, for example, you don't need to follow this journey or we started or whatnot. You have already the alternative there. That market already share with you. What is important to you is that take the best. Don't be afraid to test it in the market and then see how is it done. How it can be done in your respective environment, and most importantly, always improve, improvise, do better, and therefore you will be able to grow your industry. Wallahu alam.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Rusni. Since we're running out of time, maybe this will be the last question for Dr. Aiman and Dr. Mahbubi. Their question: from the experience of the speaker so far, is there a physical delivery of commodities in the transaction, maybe in the Brunei and the Middle East and Europe? Okay, please, mungkin Dr. Mahbubi first.
Please, Dr. Aiman first, since I believe GCC can easily adopt our
Okay.
Okay,
Silakan.
it's a Sharia requirement to ensure delivery, but in terms of the practice, I would say no one would require physical delivery, although I can cite one case where the Sharia client just wanted to test. They just wanted to test, so they requested for physical delivery. So it was made available. So we need to make sure it's available because it's a sharia requirement. But in terms of practice, I would say almost 100% no one would require physical delivery of the asset. Dr. Mahbubi?
Okay, thank you. How about in Brunei?
Yeah, I think the same case is happening in the country like Brunei and Malaysia, because looking at the main objective of the contract is just to fight the liquidity. Then if the one commodity, no one will go into commodity murabahah transaction, especially given the fact that the price in commodity murabahah is basically given higher than the market price. Like I believe in the case of Malaysia, the commodity price transacted via commodity murabahah platform is higher 3% than the normal market. So if you want to buy CPU, yeah, you will not go to commodity murabahah brokers. You will go directly to the suppliers.
Market. Okay.
But as per the Sharia requirement, like the one outlined in Fatwa DSN, yes, physical delivery should be accessible. The customer should be given the ability to seek delivery for the asset upon request, and there should not be any clause or provision in the contract that restrict the delivery of the commodity. This is the requirement. But whether that physical delivery really take place, then this is another story. But as long as the mechanic requirement of the contract is fulfilled, I think from the Sharia point of view, should be acceptable. Allah.
If I may, I would like to emphasize the same thing, that one of the requirement, and then why, for example, in the context of Malaysia, Bursa Suq Silang was established. This is to ensure that the delivery mechanism is there. Now, the condition from Sharia is that the subject matter is deliverable, can be delivered. Delivery is not a must to take place. If I were to buy something from from Ibu Yosita, okay, Ibu Yosita must be able to deliver it to me if I request it to be done. Yeah. So, but if I have the option, of either to ask for the delivery for Ibu Yosita to deliver it to me, or I said that Ibu Yosita, no, don't deliver it to me, deliver it to Dr. Aiman, or deliver it to Dr. Mahbubi. Okay?
Yeah.
So the test from the Sharia perspective is that Ibu Yosita is selling to me a subject matter or the asset which can be delivered. Okay, so Ibu Yosita must ensure that the subject matter must be something that can be delivered to me if I were to request for the delivery.
Yeah.
Whether I would like to take the delivery or not, that is my option. That is my option. Yeah. So in this case for banking, the conditions stated clearly for any commodity murabahah that if the customer would like to take delivery of the subject matter, you can. But the cost of the delivery is to be borne by the requester, the person or the customer who requests. Now, if I were to do that, then I take the risk of, well, I can bear all the costs and then I take the delivery. But then again, the customer is given the choice whether you want to take delivery or not. And most of the customer that goes to the bank do not like to take the delivery. Not because the bank said that you can't take the delivery. No, but because the bank or the customer doesn't want to take the delivery. So the choice is on the customer. Yeah, I think that is why, and that's why the conditions and everything, just like Dr. Mahbubi mentioned, that must stated clearly on that. Whether you want to exercise your right to take delivery or not is a matter of option to the customer. It does not affect the validity of the akad, and it does not affect the Sharia compliant, what we call it, status of the akad itself. Allahu Alam.
Yes, just to strengthen the point raised by Prof. Datin Rusdi earlier. So in fiqh literature, when the scholars put forward the condition for the subject matter of the asset, of the sale contract, they put a condition on qadirun lit taslim, the ability to be delivered, or in other words, it is deliverable, and not put a condition that the asset should be delivered, because it is another step. Yeah, but the step is as long as the asset has the ability to be delivered to the customer, then it should be valid and effective from Sharia perspective. That's why the asset should be owned, in existence, available at the time of the execution of the contract, so that the asset can be delivered or deliverable. Allah.
Okay, thank you for the answer for all the speakers. I think it's already 4 p.m. in Jakarta time. It's time to end the session. But before we end the session, I want to read the recommendation from today's discussion. Recommendation for Indonesia, there are 5 points. The first one, commodity murabahah can be explored in Indonesia for liquidity management and personal financing. Second one, for local banks to start using commodity murabahah structure for their Islamic banking product offering, with the hope that the utilization rate can increase over time. Third, for regulators to develop a comprehensive legal and regulatory framework that provides clarity and guidance on applying commodity murabahah transactions within the country's financial system. The fourth, for regulator to allow commodity murabahah within certain control and parameters. And the last one, to develop robust market infrastructure to support the execution and settlement of commodity murabahah transaction. This includes establishing commodity trading platforms, clearing and settlement mechanism, and regulatory oversight mechanism to ensure transparency and efficiency in the market. We hope this recommendation can be applied in Indonesia for further commodity murabahah development in order to increase Indonesia Islamic finance market share. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we already reached the end of our discussion. Thank you for all joining and participation. Now I'd like to invite our MC, Ms. Najim, back to the stage.
Thank you, Ibu Yosita, for guiding the panelist session in this webinar today. What an insightful discussion, everyone. And I can see here from the screen, there are more than 500 participants joining with us today. We hope everyone can enjoy and at the same time get the benefit from this webinar. Also, dear Professor Rusni, Dr. Ayman, and also Dr. Mahbubi, I received the chat from our friends in Islamic Bank and also regulators. They mentioned that they enjoy our webinar and also hope can benefit this webinar, can implement also the commodity murabahah in Indonesia. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, everyone can get the benefit from this webinar. We also hope this webinar can encourage the awareness of commodity murabahah in Indonesia. Okay. Before we end today's session, I would like to remind all the participants who wish to obtain a certificate. You can fill in the link provided by the committee in the chat box. For those who followed the event via YouTube, please log into your YouTube account to get your certificate. Now we have come to the end of the session. Once again, we would like to express our gratitude to all who joined the webinar on exploration on the Islamic finance and banking industry, emerging opportunities in the modern economy. I am Najim Nur Fauzia as a host representing the community. The committee, please accept our apologies for any mistake during the webinar. And lastly, thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. See you everyone.
Waalaikumsalam
Prof.
warahmatullahi
Thank you,
taala
Dr.
wabarakatuh.
Thank you,
Ramadan
Thank you,
Kareem,
Yosita.
everyone.
Ramadan
Terima kasih
Kareem.
semua.
Ya,
Waalaikumsalam.
terima kasih.
Thank you, Bu Yosita. Salam ke Mas Gani. Itu suaminya kawan kita.
Okay.
Waalaikum.
Good one, everyone. Well done, Najim and the team.
Yes, Prof.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.